Hello and welcome to this lesson. In this little lesson we're going to be looking at making a platformer game, and we're going to concentrate on adding a player and gravity to the game. And to start off with, I've given you some template code to get started with. Same as normal, import Pygames, we've got some constants set up here for your colours. Notice the constants have been set with capital letters here, that's conventional to get into using. We've got the screen height and width defined. Basics of screen size, etc. There's a space here where we're going to put our classes today. I've already given you a list to put all our sprites in, all sprite list. And then we've got our main loop as normal, and you can see there's a few key presses here, key down for left, right and up, and a key up for left and right as well. So, and calling the all sprite list update method here, which we'll need later on to update all the sprites in the list. Okay. What we're going to be making today basically will look something like this. It's going to be a very simple platformer with a single character sprite, and we can jump, move around, and you can see we've got gravity here, so it gets pulled back down to earth. Left, right, and jump. Okay, let's get started. Okay, the first thing we are going to do is to create a player class. This is going to be our class to create our player object in the game. Okay, so we're going to start off with class, player, and we're going to use the Pygame sprite library as we have before. Okay, so that's importing and using all the sprite methods and things in the built-in sprite library. Okay, and as always, we have to create a constructor class, an init. So _init _underscore self. Okay, and we're going to call the parents constructor the super class for the sprite class. So super bracket and again __ init like that. So that's going to call all the functions for the sprite parent class there. So we have access and we can use them then. Right, we're going to do some basic things to get started here. I'm going to put the code in and then we'll have a look at it. Okay. Ta-da! Here we are. Here's the code which you can add into yours and then do. So at this point, I'd maybe pause the video, type it in, and then we'll go through it. Okay, so what have we got here? Well, very simply, we've got some variables within this constructor class for the width and the height of our player object. I've then created a surface using that width and height. So self.image, and they're using the width and height to create a surface, and we filled it in with the colour red. And remember, red is a constant that we've made. If I just scroll back up here, look, there's the red constant that's been set, so we can refer to that and use it. So this is just creating basically a sprite of the size 40 by 60 with the colour red. We've then set the reference to this for a rectangle. We've called the getRect function here to set it to a rectangle. And I've set an initial X and Y speed of the player of 0 because he's not going to be moving to start with. So this is just setting your player up. So make sure you've got this to start with. Okay, so now we've got a player class. Let's get that player up and running. So just below here, not inside the class, back in the main left side of the program, we're going to create a player object. Player equals player, calling the class there. That is going to create a new player object. Create player object. Okay, which we can then refer to and use. Whoops, what's happened? Player object. I've just jumped up. Player object. Okay, now we're going to give it a starting position. Okay, so we're going to say player.rect x equals, I'm going to put it 340, so kind of in the middle of the screen. Okay, and we're going to give it a starting Y position too, horizontally, vertically on the screen. Sorry, player rect dot Y. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it so it's at the bottom of the screen. Okay, we don't want to go off the screen there. We want it sat up at the bottom of the screen. So to do that, I'm going to use our pre-built-in variable here, player height. If you scroll up, we've got a player height constant we've set here, 600. So player height minus player.rect.height. So what that's going to do, it's going to take it to the bottom of the screen and it's going to bring it up the height of the player. Otherwise, if we do it just to the screen height, the player will actually be below the screen. So we do screen height minus the height of the player, which will bring it up then so it sits on the bottom of the screen. Okay. So that will have created a player object, but we haven't added it to anywhere and we haven't drawn it at all yet. So you notice down here, we've already got a group created for all our sprites and things. So I'm going to add all sprite list dot add, and I'm going to add our player object to the sprite list. So that has now been added to the sprite list. So if we run our program now we've created a player object and we've added to our sprite list, we should see our player on the bottom of the screen, which is good. You can see it's been drawn there, which using the correct dimensions and red and things like that. However, at the moment, it doesn't do anything. Arrow keys don't do anything, and it doesn't move because our player has got no controls. Nothing's been set to it. So let's see if we can fix that. So if we go back to our player class here, I'm going to make some space in line with our constructor class here. So make sure we're in line with the def above. We're going to create some methods to make our player move. First one's going to be def, and I'm going to call it go left. So we're going to move it left, and self, because we're referring to the player itself. All I'm going to say is self.change x equals -6. So if you remember up here, look, we've got a self.change x and self.change y, and at the moment they're set to 0 because the player's not moving. So I'm going to say when we run this go left method, we're going to change the x by -6 to make it go left. And we're going to do the same thing with go right. But instead of self.change x -6, we're going to do +6 or just 6. Okay. And finally, when we want to stop moving, we're also going to have one called def stop, and that is going to reset our change x back to 0 to stop him moving, basically. So we've got 3 little methods there: go left, go right, and stop, which moves the change x either left, right, or stops it again. So now we've got methods to run or move the player, but at the moment it's not going to do anything because those methods are not being triggered and run. So we're going to go down here to look for our events. Now I've already given you a key press event for left, right, and up, and a key up event for left and right. So when they press the key down, and when the key let go of the key and release it, press up. And you can see at the moment it says none. So it's there, but it's not actually doing anything. So we're going to say when you press the key down, we're going to go player.go left. It's going to make it go. We're going to run the method for the player object called go left. And then we're going to do player.go_right, which will make our player move right. Okay, we're not going to use the up key yet because we haven't done that. However, we also need to make sure the player stops when you release the key. We don't need to keep going on forever. So on the key release or key up, player.stop. And the same for the right key, player.stop. So that is running the methods that we've created above. Now, although we've got events for it now, if I run it at the moment, still nothing happens. Okay, nothing is happening with those key presses. It's triggering the events, but it's not updating the position of the sprite on the screen. So what we need to do is we need to go back to our player object and add one final thing here. It needs an update method, def update self. We need to update the object, the player object on the screen. Okay, how do we need to update it? Well, we need to update its position left or right. How do we do that? Self.rect.x, so we're updating the x position plus equals whatever the change x has been set to. So remember, if we press the left key, it's going to go -6. If we press the right key, it's going to be 6. So it's going to update the position, the X position of the player, left to right. And let's do the same thing with up or down. Now, actually, we're not moving up or down yet, but we may as well put it in at the moment, okay? So it's there ready to use later on. So I'm going to put it in anyway. Self.rect.y, and we'll do the same thing here. Self.change.y. Even though we haven't actually done that yet, it'll be there already. Okay? So that is our update method for the player. And if I run it now, press right, you'll see the position's been updated and moved left. And if we do left, it goes -6 and gets updated +6, -6. And we can continue to do that and move around nice and smooth as well. So it's redrawing and updating the player object on the screen as it's drawing it. Good. Next stage. We can move left and right, but we can't jump. So what I'm going to do, in our player class again, let's give it the ability to jump. So let's give it another method, def jump and self. So what do we want to happen when we press the jump key? Well, we are going to move this time the Y position. X is left and right, our Y. So self.change_Y. And to make it go up, we're going to set it to -10. Self.change_Y equals -10. -10 will make your sprite go up in the air. Okay? However, just like before, we have to add a trigger to run that jump method. So back down to our triggers down here. Key event key K up. So the up key has been pressed. We're going to run that new jump function, player.jump. Okay, so that should now run our jump method in our player object. Let's give it a try. So we can move right and left, and then if I press up, it jumps. But the problem is, as you can see, it's flown off the screen. Okay, we've got nothing to bring it back down again. So what we're going to do is this. We need to add in some gravity. Okay, so we're going to go back up to our player object. Under jump, we're going to create a new method here for gravity. Okay, we need to calculate gravity. So def calc gravity, or grav. I'm going to call mine calc grav. Okay, but calculate gravity will be fine. So how do we calculate gravity? Well, basically, first thing we're going to do is we're going to see if the sprite is on the ground. Okay, we need to check and see if the Y is moving up or down. So if self.change_y equals 0, self.change_y equals 1. So basically what this is going to do is going to check to see if the Y move is in the air is 0, it's going to pull the gravity back down by setting it to 1. Okay. However, else, if it is not stationary in the air, if it's moving upwards, for example, we're going to say self.change_y plus equals 0.35. So what this is going to do, it's going to increase the gravity as it's moving upwards. As it's jumping in the air, the gravity is going to increase so it stops, and then it's going to pull back down again. The bigger this number is, say 0.55, the less high your character can jump. Okay, so the stronger gravity is basically. Okay. Finally, we also need to check to see if the character, your player, is on the ground already. If it's on the ground already, we want to set the gravity to 0 so that we can actually move upwards, or the change Y to 0. Sorry. So we're going to say if self.rect.y is bigger or equal to the screen height minus self.rect.height and self.change.y, let me just type this in and I'll explain, is bigger or equal to 0, colon. we're going to set the self.change.y to 0. To 0. Okay, and then finally we're going to set the position of our sprite back to so it stays at the bottom of the screen. Screen height, just like we did earlier, minus self.rect.height. So that's our gravity function or method added, but at the moment it's not running it. So in the update method here, when we update our player every time it goes around, we're going to run that method, self.calc grav, like that. So every time it updates the sprite, it's going to apply the gravity checking to it. Okay, and now if we run this, hopefully, we should have it so we can jump and it gets brought back down again. Okay, like that. It jumps and gets brought back down. Now this is where you may want to experiment. Try changing that number. If I change that to 0.15 for example, now I can jump much higher because the gravity effect is a lot less as it goes up. And equally, if I change that to a bigger number, say 0.55, the gravity is a lot more, so it can't jump nearly as high. So experiment, but the number I'm going to use is 0.35 because that is somewhere suitable in between, like that. Okay, so we have gravity now working. Now there is one little bug. At the moment, if we run this, if I press the up key several times, I can double jump. I can jump in the air. Okay, I can basically fly. Okay, which we don't want. We want it to be only able to jump if you are on the ground. I should not be able to jump again in the air. So we want to fix it so you can only do the jump method if you are currently on the ground. How do we do that? Well, to check if it's on the ground, I need to access the Y position, the speed of the object. Okay, so in here I'm going to add another little method, tiny little method, just called def get change y. I need to be able to access the speed of the player moving up and down, the Y position. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to return the self.change y. So that's when I run this, it means I can access the change.underscore y setting for the object. Okay, so I've just added that into our player class. Now I've got that in there, I can go down further in the code to where we jump. Down here. Okay, so in my event here, for my hingy, I only wanted to do this if we are currently on the floor. So how do we do that? We're going to use that method we just created. We're going to say if player dot get change underscore y, if that equals 0, that means we are on the floor. Okay, and then I can run the player jump class. So if we are not moving, if we're on the floor, then I can run it. Otherwise, I should not be able to run that. Now if I update it, and let's just check, put the code to the side so you can still see it there, jump, but I can't do it again until I'm on the floor. So I can only jump once at a time, like that. Okay, there's your working player object with gravity applied to it. So extension for today, experiment with the gravity settings, see if you can play around with it. And also, one other thing you can try is, can you change it so that if you are jumping in the air, you program the down key to pull your object back down again. What do I mean by that? So jump in the air, and if you press the down key, it pulls it right back down quickly. Like in Mario when you jump down and squish something. So when you press the down key, it pulls you down really quickly. Think about the events you'll need for that. Think about the actions and how you can use the Y setting to do that. Okay, so jump and then press the down key to pull you back down again. There's your extension challenge for today. Good. Good luck. See you in the next tutorial.